Hey, another prop build today. We got to keep our space beer cold. Let's go. Hey, how's it going? Anthony Ferraro here, Create Sci-Fi. Well, today I'm making a outer space sci-fi beer cooler. I think this is just going to be on the guy's desk in my short film Starfisher that I'm amping up for, and just cryo chamber. I don't know, whatever is in there, and then who knows? At some point, it's keeping the beer cold. So I'm still working on Starfisher. Like I said, if you follow the channel, we've had the fundraiser. I'm finding the location now. And what happens is right until we shoot, I'll just keep building stuff. Like this wasn't necessary, but it would be nice. And I had the time, so I'm gonna build it. So this is like a Temu little trash can, like for your desk. So with some foam, some lighting, and we'll turn it into a space cooler, right? And I think it's pretty cool. It's a pretty easy build. A lot of these things are like, you can use the elements of the build to do something else, right? And just to mention, I started selling the props on eBay, the ones, not this one, but ones I don't use on film. So you could go over on eBay, check that out. That helps support the channel, helps support the films. So I want to get right into this build. This was a lot of fun. I'm really happy with the way that this came out, and I think you'll enjoy the process. Let's get into it. All right, straight into Photoshop so we can front load, get the stuff out of the way. So I'm just designing, this is a simple logo here. That symbol is on everything in this show that I'm making, so just ties it all together, makes it custom, low cost, high impact. Now I'm guessing on the measurements for the beer cooler internals, and this I share with you guys all the time. It just converts a Photoshop image into a vector, and then I can put it into my laser cutting software. Now you could do all this with a knife. I've done it with a knife. I put in my time, but I have a laser cutter. And here I'm just testing, and you see there that off camera, I realized a single insert would be better than a double. I originally imagined it a double, but that's why you cut it out in cardboard first so you don't waste material. And then here's the single one. And then I thought I want to embed the lights. I have a LED light I'll show you later. So I just put those slices along there just so that the light will look uniform. And that's just a piece of foam I had laying around. It had dust all over it on the floor. And it has that diamond pattern. And I thought that worked well. And then there I just make a little insert for the bottom just to keep that can from rattling around. This is our very high-tech cryo chamber for beer. It's a gag, basically. So here I'm just sort of figuring out how things fit. Again, and foam is pretty forgiving. That's why I like working in EVA foam. That's, I don't know how to exactly measure those corners, but I got it close enough. Now here, this is something I just tried. Now here I'm etching like really super thin, like millimeter foam. And I was like, I wonder if this will work. Because originally I was going to cut it out. And I was like, there it is. I could etch it. So again, you could just make this in Photoshop and print it on paper. You could just cut it out by hand. I have the laser etcher, so I made it nice. And then this is the foam that has the sticky back. So this is all working great. So typically with foam, you have to hit it with like a Plastidip or Mod Podge, something so that it can accept paint. And I was like, you know what? This is like a speedy prop. I'm just going to use this blue rub and buff that I have. This should work. And lo and behold, it works. And it looks pretty good. So I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And again, broken record, you hear me talk about this all the time on my channel. I know that I'm going to weather the heck out of this thing, right? So it's fine, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. We don't do the pristine 2001 Star Trek style. We do the down and dirty Star Wars style. So here, I'm being very careful because with rub and buff, if you get it somewhere, that's it. That's where it lives. So I'm always scared when I'm doing rub and buff. This stuff is fine. Just get it in there, get it shiny. But like with the letters, I wanted those recessed letters to read black. So it was like, okay. And then there in the bottom, there's that little insert. to keep it from jangling around. And I'm going to hot glue that in here. And then this is the rub stage, or rub and buff. That's what helps to give it a metallic sheen. And you see there, I'm going for the silver because, as I just said, I just predicted, now I got this blue rub and buff all over my container. And initially I thought, well, I was going to paint this and do a dry brush. And I was like, well, it's rub and buff now. And again, thank goodness that I want to make everything messy anyway. So now I get the silver rub and buff. And this is, this is a different thing than I usually do. So this goes right on there. That's not going anywhere. Maybe this was a happy accident. Maybe this was a better way to go about it. Because if I painted it, I would have had to put an adhesion promoter. The spray paint doesn't really like this kind of plastic. So now I know in the future, if I want to do that, I do it with the rub and buff. So that rub and buff, that's on there, that's not going anywhere. So this is backwards than the way I usually do it, where the weathering and the dry brush would be the last step. So here, I just, make an effort to get that in the center. And, you hear me say this all the time. Why is it that distance down? Because that's how wide the blue tape was. Anything that makes my life easy with these props is the way to go. So now I'm just going to add some gold, pick up a lot of tips from Adam Savage over there, tested. It's like 3 colors, right? So we got the blue, got the silver, got the gold. And then I'm going to add some more colors in weathering, but at least 3. And again, these things, I primarily do them for the camera, right? It just kicks it, makes it interesting. Now there's like that little bit of gold highlighting around the letters. That was unintentional, works, so I leaned into it. So as I go. So these, I use the heck out of these. So I get these stickers on Temu. They're like, I don't know, like $1. So whenever I'm buying something on Temu, I get them. And they're all like warning stickers. Some of them are silly. Some of them are real hazardous ones. But they work fine for this to just add a little bit of value. So now I got this. I like these LED rope lights because they're not... they're like wire lights. What I like about them is if I put a strip of LEDs in there, at this point your brain just knows that's a strip of LEDs in there, right? So with these, I keep wanting to call them rope lights, whatever these are. They're like a string. I like the effect that these have, and I like sort of highlighting things with lines of this color lit up. It's almost like a neon sort of deal. So I really like working with these. So here I'm just stitching them through, trying to keep it clean in the back there, and just kind of like lacing up your shoelaces, right? So I'm glad that I cut those grooves for these to go in so everything will be uniform, because if I was doing it by eye, straight lines, I could get away with a lot of stuff by eye, but not a straight line. And then, and there's like 3 different animations, I think, for these. And again, I get these on Temu. I used to get them on Amazon, just wherever I find them cheaper. They're not very expensive, a couple bucks, and I always have some on hand. So now I got my heating tool. This is a wood burning tool that I use a lot with foam. And here I'm just making a little groove so I can recess the extra light that's going to make it go to the other side. Again, a little bit of effort. It could keep everything clean and tidy, so why not, right? So we're lacing it up. Lacing up the beer cooler. And you'll notice whenever I'm using these kind of cheap electronics and sort of bending them into something they're not intended for. Oh, wait, my book. My book describes why I do all this stuff and helps with no budget filmmaking. Link is below. Check it out. So here, as I was saying, I'm always testing the lights, right? So what'll happen, or what I found happens with me, is, you're jamming lights at a place, you're gluing it, you're moving along, you're cutting things. Sometimes you'll damage the electronics. So, I've learned the hard way. I always keep an eye on it during the process just to make sure I didn't accidentally break something. And here I'm just hot gluing that centerpiece to the bottom. And hot glue is always the way I go in these quick builds. So now I'm going to determine how low this needs to go. How low can you go? And once I get it there, I'm thinking, okay, that works. There's the visual. Obviously, I'm going to bury all that light. That seems like the right depth. And again, I'm measuring it, but, you know, I'm not like, this is not like a micrometer. It's like, okay, it's around this many inches or millimeters, whichever one lands. And here I'm just toothing up the foam, and then I'm scratching up the inside there. What you're doing when you do that is you're giving something for the hot glue to grab onto. And now I'm just putting these little ledges so that the foam has somewhere to lock into, so that it's at that depth that I like, with just the top of the beer can peeking out, the lights going. And again, this is, I keep saying gag. It's not a gag like funny haha. It's a gag like, oh, there's this cryo thing on the guy's desk, and at some point in the film he pulls a beer out of there. Let me tell you a story. I was a house painter after high school. It was my first job, and there was this old timer, and I followed him up on the roof, and he had 2 buckets of paint, and I was like, you don't need 2 buckets of paint. And he got really mad at me, and he walked away, and I was like, geez, this guy's grumpy. Here I'm putting on some Velcro. And then later in the afternoon, I saw him sitting there, and he had his paint can open, and he was painting. And in the other paint can, there was ice and a couple bottles of Budweiser. So I guess, you know, manual labor, that was a hard life, and he had to take the edge off. But anyway, so this is a cryo space cooler and beer, but it's kind of based in real life. Anyway, so here is a little Velcro just to make sure that the on and off battery compartment stays out of the way. And then once I get that all tightened up and everything the right length, I will trim out the rope light. I keep calling it the string light. Yeah, that sounds good. String light. I do want a little bit of action in there. That's why I put the reflective tape you saw a little bit while I was telling my paint can story. And that's all. I like the things like this where it's a simple idea and you can execute it. And this exists now because I was like, well, what really happened was I needed a little trash can for my desk, and it came in a 2-pack. That second one was sitting around, and I was like, hey, wait a minute. Let's make a little beer cooler, because I was thinking about that story from when I painted the houses when I was a kid. Anyway, so here I'm just tidying it up. Like I said, did that off camera. Sometimes you're in the middle of these things and you don't realize you stop recording. And then here's the lights. Again, so the animation, it's nice to have that option, because on the day when we're shooting, the cameras are going to be ready to shoot that, and I'm going to go through the 3 different versions, and we're going to decide on one. But then we have options. And that just comes out of there nice with a sound effect. It'll make it like it's sucking out. And then now we're going to do the weathering. The dry brush is a little heavy-handed on this, so I'm going to try to counter it by going heavy-handed with the black wash. And if you're new to this channel, or if you've been around, I don't think I've talked about this in a while. When you're looking at this prop on video, and we're just looking at this because I'm working on it and we're focused on it, when it's in film, when it's in a production, you'll never look at it that way. It'll be on the guy's desk. And when he finally interacts with it, the fact that it's really heavy-handed with all these scratches and dry brushing, then it'll pop and you'll register it like, oh, that's a cryo cold. What's in there? What is there? Body organs in there? And then he'll get the beer and you're on. And that whole thing I just described will probably take, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds. So when you're making the props, and they're for your cosplay, or they're for your, your area where you have your displays, you don't have to do this heavy weathering as heavy-handed as I do it. You just dial it back and do less steps. But if you are doing it like me for a film prop, you'd be surprised, even with high-definition video, you'd be surprised once it's going through the lens and you have the lighting on your set, you'd be surprised at how subtle it will appear on camera. Yeah, I don't know. Today seems to be about me telling you my theories. But I think, to be fair, it's because, if you follow my channel, you've seen me do this quite a bit. Or if you're new, you'll go back and you can kind of get an idea of how I approach these. And now I'm just giving you a deeper level of understanding. And we're getting towards the end of this, so if you're still watching and listening, that means you're interested. So school's out. So here I am blotting this. Again, I found that the way that I weather, if you wipe, you're just basically wiping it off. Well, when you blot it, you get the same amount off, but sometimes you get these happy little accidents, like it'll make this weird print. I hit it with the hairdryer, not so much to dry it, but to lock in any kind of weird drips that happen. I found that that's what I like. Same thing with the air. I'm not really blowing it out with the air so much to dry it as I am when I hit those spots where it's wet. It's going to, like, I don't know, I'm dating myself, but like frisbee art, like spin art. It creates like these weird little drips that I find interesting and I really dig. So here it is. Now you could stop here, but if you're me, you're addicted to nicotine, right? We're locking that all in with the clear. And I don't smoke my nicotine, I spray it, because you know me, I'm always going to hit it with the spray. Because to me, it's just kind of like a little film that covers everything. I like to intentionally do an overspray where you get those little runs. And that's what I was talking about a minute ago, where when I get those little runs, that's intentional. And then if I hit it with a hairdryer, it sort of locks those in place. But the whole thing about the nicotine spray is that it's water soluble. So if you go too heavy with that, it's super easy to clean off. And sometimes I like sloppily cleaning off and it looks interesting. And then we're going to lock that in with some clear, right? Having one final look. And that's good. So the beauty shots, yeah, there's a little beer can next to there to kind of give you the idea. And I like the way that looks. The light, it's subtle. Again, you won't even see it for that long in the film, I would imagine. It'll just be like, whoop, he pulls a beer out of there. And then you'll be just focused on like, wow, this guy's in space drinking a beer, having a cold one. And then there's those caution signs. I love those. They really add value. So yeah, it'll be cool to see this in the film. Yeah. Space beer. Yeah, I'm very excited about this. And again, it's because I have the time, right? It's like all the world building, all the details always just add to the production value when you're doing it at a low cost, no budget, right? So it'll just be this little thing, and then that's how he gets his beer. And, or her beer. I haven't done the final casting yet. Maybe it'll be a woman. So I think maybe we fire this up. I don't know. Let's see.
Galaxy far and wide, raise your glass, let stars collide. Taste the future, take a ride. Space beer takes you to the sky. Crafted by the finest hands, brewed among the cosmic sands. Every sip expands your plans. In this ship we make a stand. Space beer,
Cheers. Space beer.
one sip is all you need to chill. Bold flavor, crisp in every swill. Space beer.
Of course, that's prop beer. I think I got to work on the color. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Again, it's a person having a rough time dealing with life. They're doing their best. And I think in outer space, in a spaceship, having a beer in a traditional beer glass, I think that's going to work. So stay tuned. These things take a long time, but I always keep you updated. Another reason to subscribe if you haven't. And check out the Patreon page. I did find a location I think I'm going to use, and I put that sort of thing on the Patreon page. Don't want to give everything away. Appreciate the Patreon supporters. Go over to eBay, check out the props for sale. Again, this is all stuff that just supports the channel. Not necessary at all. Cool if you do it. I like to know that stuff is found at home. And check out the merch. But remember, regardless of all that, always, I'm just here to help make sci-fi. Kick it to the avatar.
Hey, I'm just the avatar, but you might want to check out this video, maybe that video. For sure, subscribe if you haven't, and check out the merch. Buy some merch, that really helps. But hey, what do I know? I'm just the avatar.